I have played Pokemon Champions completely free to play. I have not even used Pokemon Home transfers at all. And I've managed to hit Master Ball rank and I have multiple viable teams. I think I've got a good idea of how best to optimize the free to play experience, all the little tricks you can do to get the most out of your currencies, the Pokemon you should be looking out for, and also how to build a team when you don't have every single tool at your disposal and still function well enough. Whether you're a completely new player, or you're interested in Pokemon Champions but don't really know how to approach all the free-to-play stuff, I hope that this guide will be helpful as a resource to you. You can play Pokemon Champions and have fun with it without owning any of the Pokemon games or paying for any of the subscriptions within Pokemon Champions. I believe you actually can. So first I'm going to go through everything you can do within Pokemon Champions itself to maximize your odds of success and have the best time, but also there are free things you can do outside of Champions that can help you out too, to get certain Pokemon or speed things up. Pokemon Home is a free app, and so is Pokemon Go, and I'll get into how you can use those to help you out for Pokemon Champions as well. This video will also have a focus on double battles, because that's what I've played primarily and what I'm more interested in playing. I've not really touched 3v3 singles. The first piece of advice I have for you in Pokemon Champions is for the initial lineup, and this is interesting, because the way you acquire Pokemon in this game is through these lineups, which are a random selection of Pokemon that you can choose one of. But the first lineup you see is actually preset. Everybody gets the same initial lineup. And what's very interesting is that based on what Pokemon you choose in this initial lineup, you will also receive a preset starter team to go with that Pokemon. Now, I didn't realize this at first, and so I just picked Tyranitar because it seemed like a strong Pokemon here on the initial lineup. I didn't even realize the lineup was the same for everybody. It turned out that this was a pretty good choice, because when I pick Tyranitar, they give me the strong teammate of Whimsicott, Arcanine, who's an alright Intimidate user, and Sylveon, who is pretty good too. Drampa and Aggron are the other two options, which are pretty good candidates for Megas, but what I didn't realize is that there is an optimal choice here, in my opinion, that doesn't look very intuitive. Now, there are pros and cons to many of these starter lineups, but I actually think the best choice here is Pikachu. You would not think to pick Pikachu, because Pikachu is not a strong Pokemon itself, but the Pokemon that come with Pikachu are incredibly good. If you choose Pikachu on the initial lineup, you will receive the following Pokemon: Kingambit, Garchomp, Azumarill, Gyarados, and Gengar. And these are all good Pokemon, especially Garchomp. Garchomp is one of the top Pokemon in competitive doubles. With its strong typing, great move pool, great stats, everything is good about Garchomp. And Kingambit is also one of the top tier Pokemon of competitive doubles. This Pokemon is a counter to Incineroar a little bit, because it has the ability Defiant, which means if it receives a stat drop, it gains +2 attack. Intimidate is one of the strongest doubles abilities that you're going to see all the time, especially on Incineroar, who is extremely common. Intimidate lowers the attack of both enemy Pokemon by 1 stage, so Kingambit has this inherent counterplay to that, where if it has its stat lowered, it gains attack to compensate. Very useful. Kingambit generally just strong with a powerful Dark Steel typing, priority in the form of Sucker Punch, and an incredible damage output, plus this deterrent against Intimidate. So starting with this squad, I think is the best choice. You get 2 incredible Pokemon right off the bat. And the rest of the Pokemon you get are also solid. Gengar is a really good candidate for a Mega Evolution. Mega Gengar is extremely strong. It's fast with a high special attack stat and the ability Shadow Tag, which traps both opposing Pokemon on the field, preventing them from being able to switch. So you can restrict the options of the opponent, which is really strong, and use Gengar to target specific things. Gengar can also abuse Perish Song, which is a field condition that affects everyone and means that you will perish in 3 turns. Since they're trapped, they can't stop that, so you just stall 3 turns and you can KO both opponents. Mega Gengar is a bit hard to use, but it's still a great Mega to just have access to immediately. Gyarados is also strong. Gyarados is a well-rounded Pokemon, good stats, the ability Intimidate, which we've just discussed is very useful to lower both opposing Pokemon's attack stat. It's strong against Sneasler, who is common in the metagame right now. It's strong against Incineroar, physical attackers in general, like Garchomp. And the final Pokemon here, Azumarill, also has its merit. It's a bit weaker than all of the other Pokemon choices here, but still strong as a water fairy type with huge power, granting it double attack. So I would personally recommend picking Pikachu in the initial lineup to get the strong Pokemon that Pikachu grants you as a bonus. The next thing you should do as a free-to-play gamer is do all of the tutorials in the training section. This is a simple one and kind of an obvious point, but this is something you might miss. When you go to the training section, there are tutorials there, and each one of these tutorials will grant you a bunch of free currency. Some give you free Mega Stones, and they're pretty quick to do. Just do all of those real quick to get a bunch of free stuff. And this is also an obvious point that probably doesn't need to be stated, but you should be doing the daily quests and weekly missions that they provide you, because those also give you a good amount of currency. That's obvious, the game tells you they're there. You're probably aware of that anyway, just wanted to make that clear. Now let me break down all the different types of currency in the game and how to best use them. The universal currency is called VP. They give you this for playing battles, completing missions, etc. And VP can be used for everything in the game. It can be used for recruiting Pokemon, seeing new lineups, training Pokemon, buying items, etc. So VP is the universal currency. Next, there is quick coupons. And the game gives you quite a lot of these. Quick coupons are a form of currency that allow you to see new lineups of Pokemon. Every 22 hours, the game lets you see a new lineup of Pokemon for free. But if you don't want to wait 22 hours, you can use quick coupons to fast forward the timer. Each individual coupon fast forwards the timer by 1 hour. So you need 22 quick coupons to see a new lineup immediately. I would recommend primarily using quick coupons for new lineups, because you can also spend VP on this, but it's a bit of a waste. VP is better spent on training and held items, I think. And you will probably have enough quick coupons from daily missions and all of that to purely use those for the new lineup. So that would be my recommendation. The next form of currency are teammate tickets. And this one is straightforward. These tickets allow you to recruit a Pokemon from a lineup for free. One ticket equals one Pokemon. And these are just objectively good to use instead of paying 2,500 VP. Just saves you some VP. It has that specific purpose. Not really much to talk about there. If you have them, use them. It's that simple. And finally, there are training tickets, and these are the ones that are the most unintuitive to use correctly. Pokemon Champions has a system called training. And when you train a Pokemon, you can modify everything about them. Their bonus stats with stat points, their nature, which subtracts from one stat and adds to another, and also their moveset and ability. You can individually change each of their moves and change their ability, and each action here costs some VP. For every little thing you change, you spend a small amount of VP. Once you've made all these changes, it tells you how much VP it'll cost, and then you pay that amount. But what you can do is use a training ticket to make all of the training you've done free instead. Instead of spending all the VP you would have spent, you spend one training ticket. That's done by pressing X in the window that it shows you the VP price you're paying. You can press X to use a training ticket instead. And this is interesting because you should actually not use your training tickets a lot of the time. Sometimes you're only changing a little bit of a Pokemon. You're changing a couple of its moves, sometimes even one move. You're changing its stats around, and that will not cost you that much VP. So in that case, it's better to spend the VP on that. But if you are changing everything, if you've been given a Pokemon from the lineup that had garbage moveset, garbage stats, garbage ability, and you have to change every single thing about it, that'll be expensive. It might cost you like 2,500 or more VP. In that case, you should use the training ticket to save as much VP as possible. My general rule of thumb is that if it's about 2,500 VP or more, you should use a training ticket, and if not, you should use VP. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes these free-to-play games with all their currencies are a bit confusing, but that is my recommendation for using all the currencies efficiently. Now there is one other kind of currency technically. It's a bit hidden and it's not as readily available, but there are type affinity tickets, which you get from achievements. And these type affinity tickets will increase the chance that you can see Pokemon of a certain type in a lineup. For example, a fire type affinity ticket will increase the chance that you see fire type Pokemon on a certain lineup. Before you see a lineup, you can press X to use type affinity tickets. And as I said, the way you get these is from achievements. If you use 50 moves of a certain type, you will get 2 type affinity tickets for that type. It's actually really hard to do this, and it takes ages. But if you happen to have these, it's just something to keep in mind. It might increase the odds that you can find like an Incineroar, use a fire or dark type affinity ticket. Maybe something to keep in mind when you're actually playing. Use some fire moves, use some moves to increase the chances that you get the ticket. Don't throw a game just to increase your ticket chances, but just something to be aware of. These exist and they can increase your odds for Pokemon that you're looking for. Now folks, I have another tip for you with regards to recruiting Pokemon. There are two options when you're recruiting Pokemon from a lineup. You can trial recruit them, which allows you to use their pre-made set for free for 7 days in battles. Or you can permanently recruit them, which means that you have them forever and you can now modify their set through training. This is a bit unintuitive, but initially, you should always trial recruit the Pokemon. Always trial recruit them, because this is free, and they will go to your box. And once they're in your box, you can just permanently recruit them at any time from the box. And this is something else I didn't realize. Even after they expire, even after 7 days has gone by, they stay in your box. You can't use them on a team, but you can still permanently recruit them. They don't get deleted or go away. They're still in your box, you just can't use them until you spend 2500 VP or a ticket to permanently recruit them. So for that reason, it's optimal to actually just trial recruit them, because you should only permanently recruit them from the box when you know you're going to use them. Sometimes the lineup will generally be not that good, but you have one Pokemon that you might use on a certain team style or something like, I don't know, Meowstic, who has a bit of competitive merit, but it's not really worth permanently recruiting the Meowstic. So just trial recruit that Meowstic, and if you find a team where Meowstic is actually good, then permanently recruit it, if that makes sense. There's no reason to spend the VP if you don't even know whether you'll have a team that uses the Pokemon or not. It's always going to be on your box, it'll always be there, ready for when you do recruit it. So you might as well just trial recruit it first. This is something I initially didn't realize. I wasted a bit of VP permanently recruiting some Pokemon that just took up space in my box for a while. Because even though they're good, and they might have merit in some scenarios, I didn't have a full team that actually used them, so it was a bit of a waste. So this is what I would recommend. My next piece of advice is a simple one, but a very important one. And that is, become familiar with the metagame to inform your decisions in Pokemon Champions. And there's a few ways you can do this. One simple way is by watching YouTube videos, reading online guides, looking at other people play the game to get a sense of what is good, what is powerful. You know, tournament showcases, ladder showcases of players that are Master Ball ranked. By doing this, you will get a sense of what kind of team you might want to try yourself, the different team archetypes that exist, and you will be better informed when building a team and playing the game, because if you go in completely blind, frankly, the game is not that amazing at actually teaching you what's good and what you should pick. If you're a completely new player, you might see a great Pokemon in the lineup and completely forgo it for something that you think is cool or that you like the way it looks or something like that. But in competitive Pokemon, there is a meta, and there are Pokemon you should be taking. There is usually a correct choice in each lineup. And another thing I would recommend that you do is practice on Pokemon Showdown first. Pokemon Showdown is a free battle simulator that you can play in the browser. I'm sure you're aware of it. But if not, PokemonShowdown.com, you can just play Pokemon Champions doubles on Pokemon Showdown without any of this nonsense. You can just choose whatever you want on a team, build teams, practice, try things out. I would recommend copying a team of a good player and trying that out on Pokemon Showdown first, before you have anything in Pokemon Champions. Give the game a go, get a sense of what you actually enjoy playing and what you might want to build towards. I myself use Showdown all the time for practicing and team building. Before I commit to using my resources in Pokemon Champions, I want to test out if the thing I'm spending my resources on is even good in the first place. For example, I recently added Mousehold to my team, my Mega Crab Trick Room team, and that's because I was testing out different things on Showdown. I eventually tried out Mousehold and I found it to be the most effective, so then I knew that I needed a Mousehold for my Pokemon Champions team, and only then did I commit all the resources to the Mousehold and trading it and all of that, because I had tried it out, figured out the moveset I wanted on Showdown. Pokemon Showdown is a great place to test things out before actually finalizing what you want. And also giving you an idea of what to work towards, Pokemon in the lineups that you might want to keep to try and build a dream team that you've constructed on Showdown. Now I'm going to give some personal recommendations of Pokemon you should be on the lookout for that are just strong and work on most competitive teams. Now you can probably just look at tournament usage stats or something on the top Pokemon there, and that's a pretty good list of Pokemon to look out for, but in my opinion, there's particular Pokemon that might take precedent. I think the big two that you're on the lookout for are Incineroar and Sneasler. These two are very important. You may have heard that Incineroar is declining a bit in usage, and that's true. The metagame is adversarial towards it, but I still think as a new free-to-play player, Incineroar is going to be a solid support Pokemon to round out your team and provide you with very important utility. Incineroar is strong because it has the combination of Intimidate to lower the attack of both opposing Pokemon immediately on switch in, and also Fake Out, which is a form of crowd control. It's a priority move that only works on the first turn you're in, but it has a 100% flinch chance, so it prevents a particular enemy Pokemon from being able to do anything on that turn, and also saves you and your ally from harm. This combination is very strong. Incineroar can pivot out with Parting Shot, switch back in for another Intimidate and Fake Out turn. It's just really strong, and it's a good backbone for teams. That support is usually going to be really useful and help round you out. Sneasler is becoming in many people's eyes the top Pokemon of the format. I can't really disagree. Sneasler is incredibly fast. It has Fake Out. You can run a White Herb on it. White Herb is a held item that gets consumed when you receive a stat decrease, and then it erases the stat decrease. So what's great about White Herb on Sneasler is that it has the ability Unburden, which means if it's consumed an item at a double speed. White Herb commonly procs from the enemy using Intimidate on you. So they intimidate you, you don't have your attack dropped because of the White Herb, and now you have double speed, so you outrun absolutely everything. The support from Fake Out, as well as the incredibly strong Close Combat and Dire Claw, just makes Sneasler insanely strong. It's fast, it's a form of support. You can run White Herb or Focus Sash, both are good. And it has other cool options. Usually people just run Protect, but you can run Coaching to buff an ally with attack and defense. You can also run Taunt to shut down enemy status moves. Sneasler just going to be a really strong attacker and Fake Out user. Fake Out is pretty important. Usually nice to have some sort of Fake Out user. I would also be on the lookout for Sinistcha. Sinistcha is a great support Pokemon that pretty much fits on any team at all. Sinistcha is a Grass Ghost type with the ability Hospitality, and Hospitality will just heal your ally for 25% of their HP when you switch in. Its typing is great. It actually can't be hit by Fake Out because it's a ghost, can't be hit by powder moves because it's grass, and it has the amazing move Matcha Gotcha, which hits both opponents, drains health from them, and has a burn chance on it. It has other great options in its move pool too. It's just a really strong support that also really rounds out teams and fits on everything. So that's an obvious pick that you want to look out for. Rotom-Wash is a strong one. It's just incredible defensively. Because it's electric water with Levitate, it only has one weakness to grass. It works well alongside Garchomp, which you should have because you picked Pikachu from my recommendation. That's a classic combo because you can use Earthquake, and Earthquake usually hits your ally, but Rotom-Wash is immune. Rotom-Wash defensively checks a million things, spreads burn with Will-O-Wisp, can Hydro Pump Incineroar and other things weak to water. Generally just a strong Pokemon with a good mix of offense and defense that works on many different teams. Basculegion male form is another one I would recommend. And it's important that it's male because the male form has a higher physical attack, which makes it superior. Don't blame me for that. You can blame the developers of the game that made the male one superior. I didn't do that. That was them. This is a really strong offensive Pokemon that also fits on pretty much any team. It's a water ghost type. Ghost typing means it can't be hit by Fake Out, which is huge. With adaptability, it has bonus stab damage, hits incredibly hard with Wave Crash, Last Respects, Aqua Jet, and Flip Turn. Often runs a Focus Sash or a Choice Scarf, and is just going to be incredibly good for you. I would strongly recommend it. One type of Pokemon that you're going to be on the lookout for is a Tailwind user. Tailwind is a move that's great for competitive doubles. It causes all of your Pokemon to have double speed for 4 turns. This is what we call speed control, and it tends to be very strong. Being faster than the enemy is good. If you can set Tailwind, that's smart and good for you. And this is a box that you often want to tick on a team. Tailwind is the most common form of speed control. There's also Trick Room, which reverses the speed order, so the slower Pokemon moves first, but often you have to specifically build around that. It's not as generally applicable as Tailwind. So Pokemon to be on the lookout as Tailwind setters are Whimsicott. Whimsicott's very strong, with Prankster and Tailwind to set Tailwind with priority. Also has other good utility like Encore, Stun, Spore, etc. Talonflame is a good Tailwind setter. It has Gale Wings, which grants priority to flying type attacks at full HP. and Tailwind is a flying type attack, so it also has priority Tailwind. It's also a pretty strong threat itself with some nice flying type attacks. It can burn things with Will-O-Wisp. It's a strong Tailwind setter that's pretty popular right now. Corviknight is a good one. This is not as popular as the others because it's a bit slower and not as good as setting Tailwind reliably and quickly, but it is viable. And if you see it and you don't have a Tailwind user, I would probably recommend getting it if there's nothing better, because it's strong defensively. It has other merit, like Mirror Armor is a bit of Intimidate counterplay. It's got Body Press. It's good into Sneasler. It works well with the Garchomp, which you probably have because you picked Pikachu, if you're listening to my advice. So, Corviknight's cool. And the best one right now is probably Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is the most popular Tailwind setter right now. Aerodactyl is just really fast with 130 speed. It outruns and threatens enemy Sneasler with dual Wing Beat, and that's significant. It has Tailwind, of course. Rock Slide is strong to hit both opponents with a flinch chance. And it has Wide Guard, which shields your team from spread moves. With Wide Guard, moves that attack both your allies will be blocked, so you can actually shield your ally from something like Rock Slide or Heat Wave or Earthquake. Really useful to have that. Aerodactyl even has Unnerve to prevent the enemy from eating berries, and a lot of Pokemon in Champions right now are using berries because of the lack of item variety. So Aerodactyl is probably the top one you want to look out for. You should also be on the lookout for some sort of weather setter. And the most self-sufficient weather setters in the game are Tyranitar, who sets sand on the field and doesn't really require any synergy to be good. Having Tyranitar is useful to overwrite rain and sun from enemies. And also Alolan Ninetales is good. Another Pokemon that doesn't need any synergy. You can set snow on the field, it's nice to overwrite enemy weather, and you can use it for the utility of Aurora Veil, the powerful spread blizzard. It works well on its own. You could also consider Frostlass, because Mega Frostlass is a nice self-sufficient snow-setting Mega, with the same tools as Alolan Ninetales, but better stats and typing. And of course Charizard. Mega Charizard Y, it does require you to buy the Mega Stone, by the way, from the shop, but it's worth it, because Mega Charizard Y has Drought, and the powerful Heat Wave and Solar Beam, which work well with its own sun. You can run Venusaur as a teammate, who synergizes and other fire types, but Charizard Y is good enough on its own to not need any synergy. And it's important to not need synergy for a Pokemon when you're a free-to-play gamer that might not have all the tools yet. It's nice to build with Pokemon that are just good by themselves. That's what I would recommend initially. You might see Pelipper, and be a bit careful with Pelipper, because even though Pelipper is strong, Pelipper is the least self-sufficient of the strong weather setters, because Pelipper kind of needs synergy to be good. Pelipper works well with Archelodon, who has Electro Shot in the rain. It works well with Mega Dragonite or water types like Basculegion. It's not as good on its own merits. It needs a couple of Pokemon to synergize with. You probably should still take it, and it's often going to be the best choice. It's a great Pokemon, but if you have like Sinistcha or Basculegion or something as another option, I would recommend taking that instead of Pelipper, because you might not have all the Pelipper synergy yet. Generally with lineups, take Pokemon that are strong on their own that work on most teams, and that way you will be able to build a solid budget team by just throwing a bunch of those kinds of Pokemon all together. That was enough to take me personally to Master Ball. This was my Master Ball team. I never got Incineroar or Sneasler until later, but this team was good enough to get me to Master Ball, because these guys were solid. I just tried to pick the best, most self-sufficient Pokemon from the lineup every time and build with it, and that worked well for me. And the same thing I said about Pelipper applies to a lot of Trick Room Pokemon. Farigiraf is extremely good as a Trick Room setter, but Trick Room is dependent on having synergies. You're probably going to need Torkoal, you're probably going to need like a slow Mega, like Mega Crab or Mega Drampa, and you might not have all those yet. So I would be wary to take those Pokemon and the Trick Room Pokemon, unless there's no better option, and unless you have the appropriate pieces to synergize with them, just as a general rule. A resource I would recommend you use to look up cool teams to try and see what's good right now is LimitlessVGC.com. This is a tournament database website that shows the teams that were used in tournaments. You can see them, all the movesets on them, items used, and the results. So here, for example, is the recent massive tournament hosted by Scraw VGC, which had over 6,000 entrants. What an amazing resource to look at cool teams to try out. You can just scroll through the standings here and find a team that maybe consists of Pokemon you already have. Maybe you just need like one other Pokemon to fill out the team. For example, this one's pretty cool because it has King Gambit and Garchomp on it, which are both starter guys that you can get. And these are Pokemon you're probably going to want anyway because they're strong, like Sneasler and Rotom-Wash and Talonflame, and the Mega Frostlass. This is a strong team that did really well in this tournament by HQ 2009. Great example of a team you might want to work towards. You can see every single moveset option on it, every item choice, and you know it's a good team because it did well in the tournament. And it also doesn't require any special Legends ZA exclusive Pokemon or anything. These are all Pokemon you can realistically find through lineups. 2 of them are already starter Pokemon, and you could sub a guy out if you don't have the exact Pokemon. Maybe a different Fake Out user instead of Sneasler, different Tailwind user instead of Talonflame, and eventually make the team as you go. Just an idea for inspiration and to get a sense of the meta. That's a good resource to use. Now, everything I've said so far is all doable within just Pokemon Champions. But Pokemon Champions is built around transferring things from other Pokemon games. If you own some Pokemon games, this is all going to be much easier for you because you can just catch them in the game and transfer them easily. But not all of us own the Pokemon games, especially not some of the newer ones. So if you don't own any Pokemon games, you can still take advantage of Pokemon Home transfers, and that's using Pokemon Go, because Pokemon Go is a free-to-play mobile game. So I've personally sussed out this option for obtaining Pokemon. I haven't actually transferred anything from home yet, but I now understand the value of it, and I think it's something you should do if you're a free-to-play gamer, just to enhance your odds to get good Pokemon. And I do have some advice for this. The thing about Pokemon Go is that in my opinion, it's not a very good game. I don't really want to play Pokemon Go. I only did it to get stuff for champions. But you don't even really have to like Pokemon Go that much to get stuff that you can use in champions. In Pokemon Go, you will get Pokemon spawning around you that if you're just in your house, you don't have to actually walk around. And you can catch those Pokemon, do all the daily quests they give you. Sometimes they give you wild encounters through the daily quests. And what I would actually recommend doing, the fastest way to get good Pokemon for champions here, is to transfer random Pokemon you get from Go into Home, and then just trade for the Pokemon that you want in Pokemon Home. Within Pokemon Home, you can use the GTS to trade for certain Pokemon. And I actually learnt this the hard way a little bit. I was trying to get a Pelipper, because I didn't have one yet, so I caught a Wingull in Pokemon Go, and then I found out, very tragically, that it takes ages to evolve a guy in Pokemon Go. You have to get candies, which you get from catching the guy and walking around with it. And you need 50 candies to evolve the guy to Pelipper. So it would have taken me days, I think, to actually level up to this Pelipper. But then I realized, wait a second. What if I just trade this Beedrill that I got from Pokemon Go? What if I just trade that for a Pelipper within Pokemon Home? And it actually worked. Someone exchanged their Pelipper for a Beedrill. I guess Pelipper in the grander Pokemon ecosystem is not a valuable Pokemon. But in Champions, it's very good. So I would recommend doing that. Just catch guys in Pokemon Go at random, transfer them, and then trade for the Pokemon you actually want. And a lot of the great Champions Pokemon, like Pelipper and Sinistcha and Mousehold, Pokemon like this, aren't actually rare, so you can trade random stuff for them and probably get them. Now, there are some Pokemon that are in higher demand on Pokemon Home, like Sneasler. For example, it's actually going to be kind of unlikely to trade my Beedrill for a Sneasler. That's a bad exchange on the market right now. Sneasler is in high demand because of Champions. It's also a little bit harder to get because it's from Legends Arceus, a game that not everyone has. So that's a factor. But you can certainly get good Pokemon that are probably going to be valuable for your team using Pokemon Go and Home and just trading for stuff. And just to clarify, because some people are confused about this, and I have also found it confusing, so I understand. Pokemon Home is free. Even though you can pay for a subscription within Pokemon Home to get more box space and all this other stuff, more features, you can still use it for free. You just only get 30 spaces in your box. So you don't actually have to pay for it. And 30 box spaces is still an okay amount, I guess. It's not that much, to be honest, but it's something. And you can use that to still get guys from Pokemon Go to transfer to Champions. It does not cost you money to do so. Now, something controversial about Pokemon Champions is that there are certain megas that you can only get if you have Legend ZA, the Pokemon game that costs a lot of money. This is sort of a paywall behind specific Pokemon. The big one is Mega Floette. You actually can't even get Eternal Floette in the lineups. They don't give you that option. But also, you cannot purchase the Floetite Stone to Mega Evolve the Pokemon. The only way to get this is to transfer a Eternal Floette into Champions, then they will give you the Floette if you do that, which is a bit lame. And currently, as a result of this, Eternal Floette is the most in-demand Pokemon right now. You actually have to trade like a shiny or something to get it. I have not managed to get one. I keep offering to trade for it. No one is taking my offers, unfortunately. I am not offering up enough Pokemon equity for them to take me seriously. I'm considered a laughing stock in the Pokemon economy. But the same is true of the Mega Kalos starters. Mega Chestnut, Greninja, and Delphox. Now you can get the base forms of these Pokemon in the lineups, but you cannot get their Mega Stones. They don't sell them in the shop. The only way to get the Mega Stones is to transfer a Chestnut, Greninja, or Delphox from Legend ZA, that came from Legend ZA, into Pokemon Champions. Then they will give you the appropriate Mega Stone. Now, good news is, Mega Greninja is kind of garbage, so don't worry about that one. You don't need one, probably. Mega Chestnut's pretty good, but it's not that amazing. There are better Megas that you can easily get for free. Mega Delphox, however, is actually a strong Mega. So having this be paywalled is a bit of a problem, but of all of the good Megas that are currently ZA exclusive, Mega Delphox is also the most realistic to obtain as a free-to-play game. You can trade for a Delphox in Pokemon Home that is specifically from Legend ZA. If you go to the drop-down menu that says it can travel to a certain game and then you pick Legend ZA, you will be trading for a Delphox that came from Legend ZA. So in that case, if the trade goes through, you can transfer that Delphox to Champions and they will give you the Delphox Stone. The ancient stone that allows you to transform into a witch. The other way is that you can just ask people to give you one for free. In Legend ZA, Delphox is a very common Pokemon. It's not hard to get, so generous gamers can help you out. And this applies generally. I mean, you can just ask people. They're probably more than happy to give you random Pokemon like Pelipper or Clefable or Mousehold that are useful to you. If you just ask people on Discord or Reddit or somewhere, they can give you them on Pokemon Home. This is a genuine way to get Pokemon for free. But Delphox in particular is one that gives you a free Mega Stone attached, so it's a pretty high value guy to get for free from a generous gamer. And as far as I know, Delphox is pretty plentiful in ZA. You can just catch them easily. It might be harder to get a gamer to part with a Eternal Floette, which you only get one of and you have to play through the whole game. That's a higher demand commodity, but Mega Delphox, maybe you can actually acquire one of those. Those are less valued in the ecosystem. I would not recommend purchasing Legend ZA just for any of this stuff. It's an expensive game. I don't think it's a very good game either. Even though you get powerful Pokemon Champions Pokemon, I wouldn't recommend it. Oh, and another tip I almost forgot is that as a free-to-play gamer in Pokemon Champions, you start with 30 box spaces. But every time you rank up, you get a bit more box spaces. And they don't communicate this very well to you. They tell you that you got more box spaces in the dialogue of a cutscene when you rank up, rather than telling you in like a menu, you know, when they tell you that you got a VP or tickets or something, they just show you on the screen. But for some reason, they don't show you that you got box space on a UI window. They tell you in a separate cutscene. It's a bit weird. But when you rank up from Pokeball to Great Ball tier, you receive 5 extra box spaces. From Great Ball to Ultra Ball, another 5. And then when you reach Master Ball, you gain 10 extra box spaces, up to a total of 50 as a free-to-play gamer. This is the worst part of being a free-to-play player, I think, is the limited box space. I'm constantly having to throw away Pokemon to get new ones and replace them. Micromanaging the box space, but it's what must be done. This is the toll that I pay for my free-to-play status. I think the Pokemon Champions free-to-play experience is okay. There is a fun challenge in building with what you're given, which I enjoy, and over time you will probably be able to craft a team that you want if you keep playing. Some things though are a bit cumbersome, poorly communicated, and just inelegantly designed, I think. I think it would be better if you could just choose specific Pokemon you want rather than this stupid lineup system. I was really going crazy at never seeing a Sneasler or an Incineroar for a million lineups. I also didn't see Pelipper for ages, but I guess that's what it is. It's down to complete random chance. But you can use Pokemon Go and Home to help you get those solid Pokemon that aren't that hard to get in that context. Generous players are also happy to gift you free Pokemon if you like, and I would recommend taking advantage of that as a free player. Me, only using Champions was more of a challenge to myself and a fun thing for content, but I could also be using Go and Home to help me out too. At the end of the day though, there's still a lot of hoops you got to jump through, a lot of things that are a bit unintuitive and difficult to understand, but I guess that's true whenever you play a game for free. You pay to skip all of that crap, and that's how they've designed it, but be smart, be resourceful, and you can make it work, folks. You don't have to spend a single dollar to enjoy Pokemon Champions. Overall, I think the game is worth playing. It's a fun, streamlined version of the previous VGC Doubles experience, which I've been interested in the past, but didn't really get into because of the hurdles involved in playing competitive Pokemon back in previous games. Training Pokemon was way harder. The fact that I can train things quickly in Champions is a much better experience. There are many valid criticisms of the game that I'd agree with mostly. The UI is not the best. There are improvements they could make there. And the free-to-play experience is mostly just unintuitive and a bit strange, to be honest. But overall, I'm enjoying the game. And I hope that this guide will help you enjoy the game better. Get good competitive teams and get more out of your free-to-play resources. I hope this was helpful to you. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I have amazing news for you. Because you've watched to the end of the video, you have received a JimCool auspicious blessing for 1,000 years. This extends not only to you, but the rest of your family. Congratulations, and thank you for watching.